You're welcome. I'm going to call the March 10th, 2025 board meeting to order. If you'll please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We're going to turn it over to Dr. Libby this month for our Education Corner. He's going to cover an update on the school lawsuit litigation.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Got too many tabs open. So we had a quick pivot earlier last week when we had the judge come back from the state coalition lawsuit around the constitutional funding of public education in the state of Wyoming. So I wanted to bring this up because it's timely. And what I did is I pulled the summary from this because this is absolutely outstanding. And before we get going, I want to throw some thanks out there for some folks. Without these people being dedicated to public education here in the state of Wyoming, we wouldn't be sitting on this precedented outcome. Dan Celaroli, Kelly McGovern, Scott Duncombe, and our local legal counsel, Carrie Moneyhun. Many of the statements and the comments that came back in the judge's summary were direct quotes from our four folks here in Sweetwater 1. So this is a little bit unprecedented how this came back. So I'll read it really quick. The court declares state has failed to maintain constitutionally compliant school finance system by not properly funding the actual cost of school districts to provide the basket of quality educational goods and services. The court declares that the state has failed to maintain constitutionally compliant school finance system by not properly adjusting for the effects of inflation. The court declares that the state has failed to maintain the constitutionally compliant school finance system by not providing for salaries adequate for the school districts to recruit and retain personnel to deliver the basket of quality educational goods and services. See the pattern here? The court declares that the state has failed to maintain the constitutionally compliant school finance system, not including the funding of elementary level mental health counselors, school resource officers, nutritional programs, and computers for every student. The court declares that the state has failed to maintain the constitutionally compliant school facilities finance system by not adequately and evenly assessing school facilities for educational suitability, and the court has declared that the state has failed to maintain the constitutionality compliant school facilities finance system by allowing unequal and inequitable school facilities to exist for too long of a period. It is therefore ordered by the state shall modify the funding model and the school facilities finance system in a manner consistent with the order to assure that schools' financing systems for operations in the school facilities are constitutional. The court notes because of 2025 is a recalibration year, there is an excellent window for opportunity to address these issues. It is therefore ordered that this court shall maintain jurisdiction over the case until such time as the constitutional violations have been fully remedied. And that was the 26th of February, 2025. On every account, the state lost, and the coalition protecting public school education in the state of Wyoming was awarded the victory. So that is huge news across the board for public education in the state of Wyoming. This is a massive win, and it's taken a significant amount of time and energy and work from Dan and Kelly, Scott and Carrie to make sure that this is completed. What this means is there is a court order for state legislation to come back together in budgetary and finance to fully fund public education in the state of Wyoming to its constitutionality, which means for the last 10 plus years, longer than that, Campbell 4 was 80s. in the 80s. Yeah. So they got a little bit of catching up to do. And I'm very excited, not only for what it brings forward to us, but after this announcement came out on a Thursday, the next morning, there was a Senate bill that reinstituted $22 million into the foundational funding of public education. So it went from originally at 66, they tried to cut it to 42. After the court hearing came out, it miraculously turned back to 66 million, and it went through the Senate. So I think it's still working its way through the House right now. But the state is going to be held accountable for the constitutionality of funding for public school education. So I wanted to bring this out because if folks saw this or wondered what it is, this is what is going to restore a significant amount of money back into the school system so that we can operate and we can provide opportunities for all of our students K-12 across the state. So this is huge news. So congratulations to everybody that was involved in that. I wanted this to be a part of the education corner so that everybody is aware of that. This is a very, very big deal. So thank you so much for everybody that worked for getting this done. Yeah, it's huge.
Thanks, Dr. Libby. We'll move on to item D. Mr. Celeroli, if you'll provide us an update on the new Rock Springs High School.
Chair, Board, Dr. Libby, you want to lead off and
You know better than I
okay, all right. Last week, we were invited to go do our final report on the Mercer. The Mercer is the most cost-effective remedy. We had to get that completed in order to move forward with a new high school as far as the process. Once the board approves, hopefully they'll approve on our recommendation, and I highly recommend it. We have the summary. The summary sheet is pretty much bare bones, gets right to the point. They're approving 250,000 square feet, just over 250,000 square feet. I know that looks like it's huge compared, a huge cut compared to what we have. But if you start looking at the auxiliary gyms, that's what is considered enhancements or excess square footage, which has to be funded by the district itself. So for education space, they're allowing us 250,000 square feet and change. That gives us a pretty decent size cooking area, kitchen, because the kitchen is a central kitchen to the district. Our central kitchen is actually larger than Campbell County's. And Campbell County serves 8,000 students, and we serve 5,000. As far as moving forward, once we approve the Mercer, it'll go to the School Facilities Commission. The School Facilities Commission, since this was done by their department, basically, I don't see any hiccups, there. We were instructed at the end of our Mercer that once our board approves the Mercer, it'll go to the school facilities, and I will the very next day put out an RFQ. An RFQ is a request for qualifications for architects. What that'll do is that gets the ball rolling. Once we see, then there's a period of time that we have to advertise in order to get qualified architects. Once we get the architects, then we select them down to 3 or 4. Once we have 3 or 4 architects, then we go to what they call RFP, which is request for proposal. We interview the architects, and whoever comes within budget, we make our selection. Once that process gets started, then we start design of the school. A lot of questions that we have are like, what are we going to get an auditorium? Yes, we're going to get an auditorium. What size is the auditorium? Once we have the approval for the 250,000 plus square footage, that square footage is ours. There are guidelines for classrooms. There's guidelines for gymnasiums, whether it's, 50 square feet per, kid, like in kindergarten, so there are criteria that we try to meet, but that's our square footage. We can divvy it up however we want. I do want to bring to, they are giving us an extra 13,000 plus square footage, and that's for CTE areas. So above and beyond what they allocated for the CTE areas, there's an additional 13,000, it's almost 14,000 square feet. Do we have to put it there? No, I'm sure the CTE folks would love that plus more. So once we start the design, we put together a team, small team that will work with the architects and make sure that we get input from the high school, their staff. They'll go through their administration. I like to always, this is be my 10th school that I've built. Dr. Libby has built several schools. We like to have single point of contact from each entity, then that way there's not mass confusion. But there will be plenty of time. Their estimate, what they have to do is when they build a school, they build it so that 5 years above, 5 years beyond the opening date, they have to make sure that they projected our enrollment correctly at any time. Because right now, our projections show a decline in student. Okay, but what they did was, there's no way in 2035 we're going to have 900 students in this district. We have industry state statute. There is a state statute that does say that when they do this, they have to take into account the economic, situation of the county. We have mines that are being built. We hear all kinds of projections. So they kind of went middle of the road. They go back. So they did a 20-year cohort, but then we found out that 20 years ago, that was a 10, 11, 12 school, not a 9, 12. So that skewed the numbers. So going back 10 years, what they did was they took two average highs and they went between, and they came up with just over 14. I think it's 1,400 kids and change for student population. While we're building it, and here's the timeline. Okay, this is the timeline that I have from reliable sources in the county. Okay, county is projecting that the mines should open up in 2 years, 2 to 2.5 years. Those are the numbers I get. If that's the case, and it takes us, say, a year to 18 months, 16 months to design, then go out to build, should the population come back to where it was, say, 10 years ago, then that's the time that we can make change. And if we need to increase the school, then we just go back to legislators and get what we need as far as increase. They did ask that when we design the school, because right now, if you look at the original design of the high school, kind of looks like an arrowhead with, it almost looks like a spaceship from Star Wars. It's kind of like an arrowhead that has a wing that goes to the north, a wing that goes to the south, auditorium to the north, gymnasium, swimming pool, everything to the south. Now, with that, what they asked is, can we make it so that the cafeteria is all what we call big box areas, cafeterias, auditoriums, not so much auditoriums, cafeterias, gymnasiums, commons areas, have the outside walls. Because one of the biggest mistakes that we make, we see it up here at the current high school, they build these buildings and then they come back and add on to them and they don't leave any room to expand. Okay, they build the cafeterias in the interior, they build the gyms on the interior. So it's really difficult to expand those areas. So looking at the plans, we have plenty of room that we could put a huge courtyard or something between the current section and the new addition. This is being deemed as an addition to the satellite high school. Okay, because we already have a satellite building there and we're just adding on. So we have a 43,000 square foot building. We're adding 190,000 square feet plus the additional 13,000 square feet. The summary sheet pretty much spells everything out. When they do this, they have a process where they take they look at all the advantages and disadvantages. They list them down, then they project out 20 years. And it was kind of fascinating. They show 20 years from now what we would have spent on maintenance cost if the three options are fix what we have, build where we are, or build offsite. And if you project out, well, actually, the construction cost, it was cheaper to build offsite. It's cheaper in 20 years. In 20 years, we'll spend something like $560 million on repairs to the existing building. We spend $542 million on building another building and then building another building on site and then projecting the maintenance costs out for that. And we spend $520 million to build a new building. So those are costs of maintenance projected, for the next 20 years. Now, the building that we have currently now, it takes 1/3, approximately 30% of what I get annually to maintain. So I will still end up spending over $6 million over the next 5 years if it takes that long. It's our objective to do everything that we can to speed up the process. We already have, for those of you who don't know, we already have a building plan up to 95% for originally when the satellite school was being built. It was built over a capacity issue. So we have drawings that are for 124,000 square feet. Okay, but we also had to produce a master plan, which was for the full build out of the school. And when we presented it at a select committee meeting, it showed how we can add on to the school, but it was originally going to be done over a period of time. But then we got too many reports coming back for suitability for, the assessments at the building just wasn't going to make it. At that select committee, I was asked by, at that time, Representative Harshman, how long I thought that building would last. I told him 10 years. That was almost 11 years ago. So we're beyond that. So now it's a new school. Overall, I think the report was very well done. I think, well, I know it'll satisfy legislators. The recommendation is to build new. It's for $159 million in change. And that's for, it'd be a total build out of 250,000 and I think 940 square feet, somewhere in that neighborhood. Any questions?
Any questions? I guess I'll just add the comment that this is going to come pretty fast and furious like we talked about. And I know that we've provided some input in the past on ancillary facilities not being a part of this. And the board, Dr. Libby, there's been various discussions on how we might fund those, what we want to prioritize. So I would just say over the next coming months, we plan to have some discussions on what the community wants to see and how we're going to get it built in addition to the high school and that. So prepare and plan for that. Thank you very much. Do you have a question? Go ahead.
So to clarify, so we're dropping down a lot of square footage, but that has to do with the add-ons. Or are we just in general, is there's more efficient use of space in the new design?
I can actually speak to that one. So originally when we thought I was at 282,000 square feet, I wasn't paying attention to how they were adding those numbers. What I originally heard was the 230,000 square feet, and I was adding onto it the square footage that already existed. And what they were doing is they were counting what already existed as part of the square footage. So initially when I thought it was 282, I had inadvertently added the satellite school onto the number, and it was actually a part of the original number. So the 242,000 square feet
Yeah, 240 and change, yeah.
is the actual site, including the current satellite. That's smaller than what the high school is right now because there's enhancements at the high school. So the auxiliary gyms at the high school, the pool at the high school, if you reduced all the enhancements off of the current location, it would be about the same as the 242,000 square feet that we're going to build.
Okay. That's what I was wondering. It's about 100,000 square feet of enhancements.
Yeah.
One of the big benefits will be that it's all being built together at once versus modularly, like the last building, to
Right.
where security and so forth became an issue because there were different parts of the school built in different time periods. So
All right.
that will be a benefit to us.
Well, and the way like our kitchen design, the kitchen design up at the high school is 15,000 square feet. But the new kitchens, they'll bring somebody in, they're going to give us 13,000 square feet that we can use for kitchen. Now, everybody, 2,000 square feet. I've done refrigeration, my whole life, and you walk into restaurants and they serve thousands of people, in a week, and their kitchens are nowhere near 15,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Mr.
Okay.
Solaroli.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item E, our superintendent highlights. Dr. Libby?
Thank you, Chairman. Before we get going, in the back there, touch the TV set. There you go. Now it won't shut off. So you keep, thank you. A few things here. So March numbers, I always try to give the update. Pre-K, 198 students. Total population for district is 4938, which is down 28 from February. A few thank yous here. So I'm going to throw this out here too, because I actually missed the snowstorm. I was gone. One of the favorite things that folks asked me about, what did you like being a superintendent, was to go through your K-12 career and then have the opportunity to call a snow day. That was like one of the coolest things I ever had a chance to do. So students, the folks to remember, that was the coolest thing. One of the worst things to have to do is call a snow day. because you have to figure out what you're going to do on those days. So we lucked out a little bit with the fact that there wasn't school, but there was supposed to be professional development on Friday. And I was out of the state and missed it. But I wanted to send out some thank yous here, because there's some kudos when work like this has to go down and folks don't know how fast you have to scramble when you grab 13 inches of wet snow overnight. So the Rock Springs High School staff that came together, the facilities folks, Dan and his crew and Mark, transportation, and Bo and his group for helping pull out buses, and folks that had got here and trying to get folks located appropriately. The administrators that helped assist and support through that day while we were trying to plan a virtual professional development day. And we had a regional event that was going on. So we had schools and communities from all over the space here in town. And it takes a village to get some work done like that. So before we get going into the rest of these, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming together as a team. There's always things that you can do better. There's always things that can go worse. But I just wanted to thank everybody for the time and the patience that they put in for making sure that everybody was taken care of over that time frame, and that ultimately everybody was safe and everybody got home okay. So with that, Pilot Butte joins Eastside as a certified kindness school, and the gauntlet has been dropped for the rest of the elementary schools and the junior high to also become a nationally certified kindness school. We appreciate that. They've got their logos up on the national webpage. Congratulations to the boys and girls wrestling team and the basketball teams this weekend. We have a 7th grade boys basketball team that went undefeated. Congratulations to, there you go, coach. If folks are downtown and they're over towards Washington, I want to give you a heads up that there's some construction is being completed in the park out in front of Washington, the monument, the Chinese historical monument that's being done out front. So just in case you see construction work down there, we're aware of it. They're doing some work on the mining that's below it so that it doesn't collapse. Last one here is, I don't see her here, is I wanted to thank Chris Kundle. So Ms. Kundle has been the principal over at Walnut this past year for us. She's done an excellent job with moving that school forward and continuing moving forward. And she let me know after she had spoken to her staff that she is going to officially retire again. So I just wanted to publicly thank Ms. Kundle for all the dedication and hard work and her willingness to come back this year and help us assist over at Walnut Elementary School. And with that, I'm open for questions.
Any questions? Okay, we'll move on to board reports. First and foremost, I'd like to welcome Sabrina Fletcher. She's our student representative from Black Butte High School. And so we're happy to have her here. Like I said, if there's anything you want to contribute, feel free to chime in. A few other things. In an effort of full transparency, prior to this meeting, we did our board workshop and we started our board self-evaluation process. Obviously, our board is fairly new, and so we're starting to work through how we're going to tackle the next 4 years and what that's going to look like. But I did want to share with you guys that we covered a section on our board as a team. Overall, out of a rating of 4, we rated ourselves at a 3.45. But some things that we're taking out of this that we'll be working on is some measurable goals that we'll be reporting on month to month. And we've formed 3 sub-teams to start working towards these goals. There will be a food insecurity sub-team with Dr. Franks, Dr. Seppi, and Mrs. Wood. There will be a student engagement sub-team with Mr. Garner, Ms. Schumacher, and Mr. Sorensen. And then there will be a communication team with myself, Dr. Franks, and Mr. Sorensen. So those will be a couple small subgroups that we're going to take the next 3 months or so to tackle some of these subjects and come up with some measurable goals and report back to you guys each month how we're proceeding to make our district better. The next section was board superintendent relationships. We scored ourselves at a 3.29. The big thing with this is that we're new. I think we all had some questions on where our roles and responsibilities are versus the superintendent, and that led into practices versus policies. And so we had some great discussion around how we're going to move forward. in understanding those roles and start making some effective change with policies. And then the last section was board planning. We rated ourselves at a 2.95. So we did do something new recently where we did a board retreat last month, and it sounds like that was pretty well received. The board would like to start doing this more on a quarterly basis, maybe a shorter meeting, and where we can basically enhance our collaboration and our communication, and that will contribute to raising that score in the future. So just to let you guys know where we see ourselves today and where we're going. A couple other things for myself. We are going to start a book study on the anxious generation. So for the board, please read chapters 1 through 4, and we'll prepare to discuss those at our meeting in April. In particular, I'm looking for what we've learned from the book, how it pertains to our district, and actionable steps that we might take to improve the situation for our students. Also, I wanted to remind you guys that there is a public officer training that's required for newly elected officials. You should have an email from WSBA, but I would suggest you try to get signed up for that and just get it behind you. Education corner. So I'd like to ask Dr. Franks to take April and Dr. Seppi to take May. What I'd really like to do is focus our efforts on the new high school, what the process is going to look like, and start to address some of the questions around ancillary facilities and what we're going to do as a community to address those. We can clarify it more later, but the next thing is for the community and for the board, House Bill 172 did pass, which is the gun-free zones, and that becomes effective July 1st, 2025. So our board is going to need to get a policy in place to address this very quickly. That said, I did get off a call with WSBA the other day, and they're working on preparing some guidance for all the districts in our state to try to build some of those policies around. Some of our districts in the state already have policies, and those have probably been shared with you. Those are a great starting point, but we're going to need to attack that pretty fast and furious. And then the last update from me is the NCAA created what's called a NIL policy. NIL is name, image, and likeness back in 2021. And certain districts in the state have started to create policies around this larger NIL policy. If you're not familiar with what it means, it basically means that high school students can profit from things like endorsements, sponsorships, promotional activities, etc. And those NIL rights allow student athletes to control and monetize their own personal brand. Another comment that came out of this from WSBA is at the college level, it's become more profitable for students that have gone down this lane to stay in college than to be drafted to professional leagues. So I forwarded you an email around this. Please review it. Please provide me your feedback. I'll pass that along to WSBA and we can see where that goes for our district. That's it for me. I'll open it up to the rest of the board. Dr. Seppi, do you have any updates?
Okay, so the last month I attended foundation meeting. There's doing some good work on food insecurities is one of them. Trying to centralize some of this so that we can do a better job for all of our students. Coming along with that, that is something that, as you've heard, is a big issue for several of us. And so we're really trying to do a better job with this, the foundation also being part of that to help with that as well as some outside in groups that are trying to do some good work on their own. We're trying to hopefully be able to provide a better support so that we're not all working at this singly. I was at the PIT meeting last week, I believe, at the high school, talking about the recent survey that went out related to the accelerated schedule and some of the results that came from that. Thank you for anybody that took the time and actually responded to that. Those are imperative to give us better information on what to do in the future. And then I also toured Stagecoach Elementary. I appreciate all the faculty staff allowing me to spend time in their school. And that is it for mine.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. Any updates?
No report.
Thank you. Dr. Franks, any updates?
I just want to give a shout out again to, many of you are familiar with the Love Local, which is between the schools now. We got rid of the the competitive nature of everything. And so just for our last meeting that we met, sorry about that, met with at that time, we were looking at about $17,000 raised, but I think there was even more that came up because we still had a few people still donating. So we just want to give a shout out to the students and everyone who donated to this because it really does make a big difference. We have tailored it to, fit Sweetwater County. And that's what this is all about, giving back to one another and making sure that people benefit from this in your own county. So again, that's a really special thanks to all of you and who Miss Beardsley is the other one that led this team and she's done great, great action with this. The other thing I did sit on the wellness committee. It's a good group of women, and then there's me. And so I just kind of sat there and, keep my mouth closed and kind of take it all in. But it's a very interesting committee. We just plan out the wellness activities that are going to happen throughout the months to come. We have the Color Me Fun Run. We just haven't got it all in cahoots yet. But that's coming up for the summer months and just for everyone to enjoy. But it's kind of a relaxing committee to be on and enjoy it, but fun stuff.
Thanks. Mr. Sorensen.
Yeah, so last month I neglected to point out that I went to Wamsutter. I went to Desert School, which was awesome. So if anybody has a chance to go out there, you should check it out. It's a pretty interesting school. Just a small treasury report. You'll see it in the consent agenda, but comparing our bank balances for the end of February this year to last year, we actually have up 5%. So our bank balances look good. And that's about all I have.
Thank you. Mrs. Wood? Okay, Ms. Schumacher.
I just had to report that we did have a policy committee meeting. With that, we're reviewing our transportation policy. That's going to go out to the public and everyone will be able to see where those changes are. A few things to note with it is that taking away some of this language and kind of remodifying it really is focusing on the extracurricular activities and still being able to travel, even when we have certain unnecessary traveling indications through YDOT or anything like that. More than anything, the biggest thing is just know that our school transportation is talking with not only YDOT, but the Wyoming Highway Patrol to know the actual safety and what is expected when our extracurricular buses are traveling. And so just keep that in mind. One thing I didn't know, but they noted too, was that buses are not considered a light profile blowover risk. So that's something that you obviously hear and see a lot more than anything when it comes to our interstates. So that's just something to also note there. Along with that, one of the things that I have brought up before now, and something that I'm also excited to kind of delve into, is ultimately looking at our policy for cell phone use within the schools. As I've mentioned before, I do have concerns with it. In speaking with our board at previous meetings, we do have, I think, a consensus for the most part that it just needs to be reviewed. More than anything, enforcement with it. We are doing the book study that Mr. Wright has indicated. We are going to be looking at what it is and focusing on ultimately the cell phone use and what is happening. Really the mental health behind it and what's happening within our school districts and our students who are using their phones, not only outside of school, but during school, how that causes the anxiety that is driven there, how it encourages bullying, all the things that ultimately people aren't getting a break from because they're attending school and then they're going home and they're dealing with it all together. There's many, many studies out there in regards to sleep deprivation and how that's impacting our students academically, but also just the idea of these cell phones and the distraction that it causes in regards to the use during school. There are other districts that have came out and decided that they wanted to go this direction at the beginning of this last school year. They've reported that they've seen increases in their academics just purely based off of that distraction being taken out. There is a study, I believe it was Natrona County, that is looking at it as well. It's something that they've publicly announced, and I believe one of their trustees had indicated that, and it wasn't an overwhelming amount, but when you go and you look at your phone, it takes over 20 minutes to get refocused. And so that's almost, when you do that multiple times throughout your class period, it's shocking. And so that's one of those things that I know that I want to address. It's something that I've brought to the policy committee, that it's something that we'd like to have addressed. Again, the word's out there, we have this cell phone policy already in place, but there's just, when you walk into the schools, you see it being violated. And so it's just one of those things that ultimately, especially at our older ages, needs to be some enforcement expectations, boundaries need to be expected to be followed through with not only the board, but administration and everyone as well. And so that's just one thing that I want to bring to the public's attention, because it's not anything to hide. It's not anything that ultimately is meant to cause anyone to be, outraged about it. But ultimately, we're really looking at the facts, the studies, the actual information that's out there that's going to kind of drive us in deciding what to move forward with. And with that being said, one of the things that I said with that too is we would be looking at this for next school year. It's not something we're going to try to drop on everyone in the next month or so. It's something that we want to take time to do, which is also a big part of our book study.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Okay, with that, we'll move on to recognition. Ms. Bolton and Ms. Gunter.
Chairman Wright, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Libby, if you could please join us down here on the floor. Sabrina Giles is our student representative from Black Butte High School. We would like to thank Sabrina for joining the Board of Trustees this evening and sharing a fresh student perspective. Sabrina's attendance sends a positive message to all of the student body to become involved in respectful ways. Our students are capable of great things. Civic engagement is one of those things. Thank you, Sabrina. Rock Springs Tiger Rhythm Dance Team has exemplified excellence, dedication, and hard work while representing Rock Springs High School and Sweetwater County School District No. 1 throughout the school year. Their remarkable success is a direct result of their unwavering commitment and determination. The team dedicates a minimum of 10 hours per week to practice, including early morning and afternoons, in addition to the countless hours spent training at their local dance studios. This tireless effort has been rewarded in numerous accolades. This year, the team claimed the Varsity Jazz Division title at the National Dance Alliance, NDA, regional competition in Colorado, while they also secured second place in hip hop. At the Wyoming State Spirit Competition, they earned both 4A state titles in jazz and hip hop. Furthermore, the team received a nomination to compete in the prestigious NDA National Dance Competition, where they advanced to the semifinals in both jazz and hip hop, ultimately securing a spot in the finals for jazz. Competing against 53 teams from across the nation, the Tiger Rhythm Dance Team placed 15th overall in jazz. The Tiger Rhythm Dance Team has continuously proven to be a powerhouse, setting a standard of excellence in the dance community. We extend our heartfelt congratulations to the team and their coaches for their outstanding achievements this year. Head coach, Amber Cerna. Assistant coaches, Mackenzie Edens and Haley Ravelli. Senior captains, Jamie Lynn Stoffer, Kara Forbush, Roxy Burns. Seniors, Audrey Hall, Stevie Bolton. Junior captains, Kennedy Scott, Kinsey Demore. Juniors, Kara Lynn, Gracie Green, Holly Shrewsbury, Allison Shalata, and sophomores, Addison Gonzalez and Breslin Shelley. Congratulations. We would like to extend our deepest appreciation and gratitude for the former trustees of Sweetwater County School District Number 1, Carol Jellicoe, Stephanie Thompson, and Andrea Summers. Their unwavering dedication throughout leadership and commitment to improving our schools has made the lasting impact on our community. Through their hard work, countless hours of service, a strategic vision, they have helped guide our district toward success and ensure a bright future for our students. We honor their legacy and thank them for their invaluable contributions. Joey Fagel has dedicated countless hours of his personal time to supporting the students of Rock Springs High School, significantly contributing to a culture of commitment and excellence in our sports and extracurricular activities. He consistently demonstrates an unwavering commitment to the students and Tiger Pride. For years, Mr. Fagel has selflessly volunteered his time to operate the scoreboard, manage videos, recordings, fundraise, bring in community support and sponsors, clean and decorate the Tiger Stadium, and be present at numerous events in helping in ways that he can, always prioritizing our student athletes. His initiative, ideas, and unwavering commitment makes Rock Springs High School a place of excellence and has played a vital role in shaping the student experiences and fostering the culture at Rock Springs High School. His exceptional talent is creating hype videos has become a powerful statement for our students, showcasing their fierce competitive spirits, dedicating each participant. The talent behind the creation of the hype videos is also an invaluable asset to the student athletes, as these videos serve as powerful motivators and visual representations of their hard work, dedication, and passion. The artistry of capturing their fierce determination, competitive drive, and team spirit alleviates the athletic experience, making each student athlete feel seen, celebrated, and empowered. Hype videos are not only amplified school pride, but also built anticipation and excitement for games and events, energizing both the athletes and the community. These videos provide a dynamic platform for showcasing individual teams and achievements, creating lasting memories and a sense of pride that fuels continual success and fosters a positive and supportive school sports culture. Our teams eagerly anticipate the opportunity to work with him and see the next masterpiece. Mr. Fagel's dedication to our students in Rock Springs community is immeasurable. Sweetwater School District Number 1 is deeply grateful for all of the time, effort, and passion he has devoted to our school and its students. Thank you, Mr. Fagel and Fagel Rock Productions, for everything you have done and continue to do. Clint Eddy has been well known and a valued member of Rock Springs High School community and Sweetwater County School District Number 1. consistently dedicating his personal time and efforts to promoting a dynamic and positive culture at the school. From supporting fundraising events to promoting community partnerships, cheering the students as they perform, compete, and assist in stadium cleanup, Mr. Eddy has always been there. Among many of his contributions to making Rock Springs High School the place of pride, he took the initiative to clean the concession area and repaint the doors, all without being asked. His actions exemplify his commitment to school pride and the willingness to do whatever it takes to restore and elevate school spirit. Additionally, Mr. Eddy's daughter, Sarah Eddy, and fellow students, Addison Nations, volunteered their time to help clean up the property and further promote Tiger Pride. We extend our heartfelt thanks to Mr. Eddy, Sarah Eddy, Addison Nation for their selflessness, dedication, and unwavering commitment to Rock Springs High School and Sweetwater County School District Number 1. Rock Springs High School Wrestling is proud to announce our 24-25 state placers. These 7 wrestlers have put in the time and effort it takes to step out on the state podium. They have fought through adversity and proved their mental and physical toughness. The 2 seniors left it all out on the mat and finished their last season as a Tiger. We are excited to have returning placers for next season to build off of and lead our team during next year. Rylan Plant proved to be a standout wrestler this year. She took out 2 returning state champions and earned her first state title. Rylan is the second Lady Tiger to win a state title for the Rock Springs High School. We are very excited for the future of both boys and girls wrestling teams. 24-25 Rock Springs High School wrestling state placers. For the boys, at 120 pounds, Kirkland Hay, 4th place. At 126 pounds, Santi Cruz, 3rd place. At 126 pounds, Dane Arnoldi, 6th place. At 132 pounds, Lincoln Young, 2nd place. At 175 pounds, Sam Thornhill, 2nd place. For our girls team, at 105 pounds, Rylan Plant, champion. At 130 pounds, Paige Tongate, 6th place. And without mention, at 155 pounds, Sarah Eddy, an undefeated season.
Do the coaches come on up, please, for the pictures?
Okay. We would like to recognize our orchestra, band, choir, and theater students for their accomplishments at state. All-State Orchestra, Skylar Riddle, Jeremiah Bear, and Taylor Smith. Our All-State Music Band and Choir, Emily Anderson, All-State Choir, Miley Bay, All-State Choir, Hannah Bay, All-State Choir, Jeremiah Bear, All-State Choir, Macy Byers, All-State Choir, Kara Crosby, All-State Choir, Joshua Davies, All-State Choir, Isabel Hay, All-State Choir and All-State Jazz Choir, Kira Harrison, All-State Choir, Kenneth Knox Zanetti, All-State Band, Skylar Riddle, All-State Band, Jonah Robinson Kim, All-State Choir and All-State Band, and also to mention #1 in bass and also #1 in sax. Taylor Smith, All-State Band, and Tanner Winward, All-State Choir and All-State Band. Our state theater results: All-State Superiors, Harley Morgan, solo acting, duet acting, Kimberly Perez, duet acting, Kara Crosby, musical, duet musical, group musical, Miley Bay, duet musical, Kira Harrison, group musical, Jonah Robinson Kim, group musical, Max Rogers, solo acting, Macy Byers, solo acting, solo musical, sorry. Our honorable mentions in excellence: Kimberly Perez, costume construction, Aurora Baker, duet acting, Sadie Woodward, duet acting, Emily Anderson, solo musical, duet acting, solo acting, Max Rogers, duet acting, Wesley Baxter, duet musical, Max Phillips, duet musical ×2, Miley Bay, duet musical, Molly Beard, solo acting, Ivy Shatterly, solo musical, Kara Crosby, solo musical, and Ava Nedick, solo dance. This evening, we continue a tradition of honoring employees that have worked for Sweetwater County School District #1 for 25 years. From the Central Administration Building, Lori Kazire. From Rock Springs Junior High, Michael Swinson. Thank you. From Stagecoach, Lisa Nelson. And from Walnut, Kathy Perkins. That concludes our recognition for tonight.
Well, I don't know where Dr. Libby went, but Miss Marie, do you want to start roll call, please?
Mrs. Wood? Here. Mrs. Schumacher?
Here.
Mr. Franks?
Here.
Mr. Gardner?
Here.
Mr. Seppi?
Here.
Mr. Sorensen?
Here.
Chair Wright?
Here. Thank you. Move on to the approval of the agenda. If I can please have a motion to approve the agenda as presented, including addendums.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mrs. Schumacher. Second by Mrs. Wood. Any discussion on the agenda? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We'll move on to the BOCES 5 presentation and turn it over to Dan.
Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Libby is here. There he is, Dr. Libby. Thanks for having me here tonight. My name is Dan Mayer. I'm Executive Director for BOCES 5. And to get to the point, the reason that I'm here, each spring, I go out and provide, as part of our mill levy request, which you do in July, or I think boards do it at a different time, but I think it's officially set in July. We go out and make our official request. Our board, when we look at funding, we go out and we make our request. As part of that, I come out, provide some materials, mostly regarding financials. I do try to sprinkle in some things about our programming, other things that we're doing. But essentially, it's to inform you about what we're doing as an organization, and then with the mill level. And that's why it's pretty financially heavy, because it's really addressing some of those, because that's what the request is for tonight. In the information that's provided, have an executive summary, something that's quick and dirty to the point, and then a much more thorough report. In that thorough report, we can even provide more information if there's anything that you would like more information on. Tonight, I'm really here just to give you a couple highlights, be here in person if there's any pressing questions at this time. And always, as always, if there's questions moving forward, you can go through Dr. Libby or Miss Wood, who is our board representative from your board, and we'd be happy to answer those questions. Essentially, it helps us fund our, mostly our facilities. I would like to just highlight in all of that, we're really looking at CBAR-V. That's our residential treatment facility that we have. We're licensed for 45 beds. Currently, we can only operate at about 30 safely. And we've known for a while with the population that we serve and those needs, we'd like to serve more of that population. And our biggest battle right now is appropriate facilities. And so the reason that we cannot take that is just because of the facilities. And these mill levies are utilized to help offset those operational and those facilities costs that we have. They're not to be used for any salaries or anything like that. I don't know if that's noted out in there. We don't receive any state funds. Our funds, for those of you who are not as familiar with us, are, I believe it's 88% fee for services. So the services that we charge, 6% are mill levies. We're losing mill levies each year as costs go up. And then other funding. We are looking at alternative funding sources to get that capital improvement. Our mill levy alone right now will not sustain that. And so we're looking at other options, and we're exploring in the future what that request, when we come out and ask for that request from our members, can look like. So with that mouthful, Is there any questions? I'll stand for any questions or comments, anything that you have from the packet or anything else. We do, CBAR-V is our residential facility. It's in Jackson, Wyoming. We have students placed there from this district, and we also have a day program, Roosevelt Learning Center, that serves all of Sweetwater County. And we do operate other facilities, and we do provide professional development and psych services, among other programs. So,
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Mr. Sorensen?
Yeah, I'll jump in the deep end. I've learned enough just to be dangerous, but I've heard this topic discussed before, so I'm sure I'm bringing up what you've already talked about, but it seems like the challenge is finances and such. And I wonder, if we're planning long-term, why do we stay in Jackson? Like, there's obviously, you can't get staff, and you can't afford land, you can't afford contractors. Why don't we move to a more economically feasible place like Rock Springs? We'd love to have you here.
yeah. We explored that a couple of years ago, right in COVID, when we were like, well, we need to do something with this facility, right? It's now or never. We need to make some decisions. One thing we needed to determine, are our services still needed? And it was a resounding yes. Okay. And so could we provide something similar somewhere else at less of a cost? And when we really looked at it, we don't have the staffing issues that other facilities have. We have a place of where to house those individuals. And a lot of our staff are seasonal type of staff that CBAR-V has relied on for 40 plus years. And so we feel like in our strategic planning, we feel like we could leverage the staffing potential there to make sure that we can serve 45 or more students, because staffing isn't what we're concerned about. We feel like if we can find that, we can find suitable, appropriate housing, which would be much like a hostel, if you're familiar with that is, where you have multiple staff members living in one unit like an apartment. And many people are willing to, wouldn't be my choice in that, but there are people, and it's been effective. We're doing something like that on a small scale. So if we can plan for that, when we explore and talk to other facilities, we just visited, because we're really getting into the planning phases of it, at another facility in Wyoming. They have a capacity for 70 some beds. They can't go above 40 because they cannot find staffing. And so they're really not able to utilize the fullness of their facility because of their location. And so, so that's that was some of our rationale of why we would want to do that. We really see, once we get that done, expanding. I think our services and the type of services are needed regionally more located is what we would, I think a long-term vision is that we have areas where we can keep kids closer to home as much as possible. It's been kind of our mission. Does that answer that question? We did explore that, and at the time our board felt like it was a good option to stay. I can go into other rationale of that as well.
No, I think that, answers it. It's always, how long has it been in Jackson in this facility?
It's been in
a long time.
Jackson since the 70s.
Yeah.
And I could go into, just the established relationships and the therapeutic, a lot of pros. But we did discuss it, and I think it's always on the table when it becomes just not, if it would ever become just not feasible. And I don't think we've hit that point yet. And we see some advantages, quite honestly.
Any other questions? Okay, we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And with that, we'll move on to item 4B. Turn it over to Ms. Libby for an update on our grants and federal programs.
Good evening, Chairman Wright, members of the board, Dr. Libby. So every spring, we do a consolidated grant review of the amounts that we were allocated for the 24-25 school year within our federal programs and the grants that we offer. I think, there we go, Zach. And then I can take any questions. We're also going to have a community input meeting on April 9th. Time is to be determined, kind of thinking 5-ish. It'll probably be here in the boardroom. So a little overview, just purpose of grants, to just leverage it some more resources and allocations in order to help support the achievement of our students, professional development for our teachers, supporting student success, some of our at-risk students, English learners, students in transition, excuse me, and supporting comprehensive school change by improving teacher effectiveness, and as well as our principals and school leaders. So I'm going to start off with Title I. If I go one more down, Zach, thanks. So Title 1A is improving academic enrichment. Our allocation this year was a little over 2.2 million. We currently have 6 elementary schools that qualify for Title I services, as well as our preschool. Each school has a Title I teacher or multiple, depending on their size, in order to help students who need extra academic support. There are also Title I funds also support family engagement nights, classroom resources, subscriptions, as well as professional development opportunities and trainings for staff. Qualifications for Title I is all based on schools with free and reduced numbers. Okay. Title 1D is our neglected and delinquent. We got a little over 200,000 in our Title 1D. This is to support our at-risk students and support our students at the Sweetwater Detention Center as well as the youth home. We use our Title 1D funds for an at-risk oversight coordinator, interventionist, and credit recovery program currently. Title 2A is improving teacher and leader quality. We have partial salaries for an academic and behavior specialist and a K-12 curriculum and assessment specialist that come out of our 588,000 allocation this year, as well as we use this money to send teachers to professional development, bring trainers in, and additional support staff. Title III is our English language learner support funds. We get about 52,000. Our current uses, we have a staff and parent liaison that helps with our parents of our EL students, as well as some instructional materials and professional development. Our YBuilt grant, which we are in the final year of, this grant is surrounding literacy and improving literacy outcomes. This is going to be a big hit because we will no longer have these funds after September 30th. And this is 1.6 million. And this was a 3 or 4 year grant. There were some mini grants as well as the beginning, but it was a little over $1 million a year. It was supporting about 6 or 7 salaries, as well as a lot of professional development supplies and things like that. So this one's going to be a big hit to the budget, but we're working on different ways, different buckets of money, we can say. Title 4A, student support and academic enrichment. This has 3 goal areas that we have to address: access to a well-rounded education, ensuring safe and healthy students, and improving the use of technology. And there are certain percentages of allocations that we have to have within each category. And currently, we use it surrounding our virtual education, health and safety. We have partial salaries on behavior specialists, counselors, some CTE supplies, as well as some more supplies for our English learners. Perkins is our CTE funding, about 155,000. The majority of this money goes to upgrading equipment and modernizing our programs. The Perkins allocation is a bit tricky. Sometimes it goes off of free and reduced lunch enrollment, and sometimes it goes off of the number of concentrators that we have within our CTE programs. I was actually on a webinar this afternoon with WDE on some changes that's coming down the pipe for reporting our numbers. And so we have, for the CTE programs that we have, 155,000 is not that much money. And we have some, I'll get to the great community support that we have for our CTE programs. But like I said, most of our allocation for Perkins goes to equipment and modernizing the programs. 21st Century is our after school and summer programs. Community Connections, we generally have programs throughout the year at about 4 or 5 of our elementary schools. To my 21st Century also, this grant pays for a full-time coordinator that helps with building those community connections, organizing all of the after-school programs and the clubs that are offered for the kids, and organizing the summer program, which is pretty big. And we get about $225,000 a year for that. BOCES is an enormous support to all of our programs. This year we got a little over $400,000. And BOCES helps, to provide those educational opportunities that just aren't otherwise available in our county. BOCES helps pay for a lot of our CTE certification tests, concurrent enrollment, driver's ed program, instructional supplies, an advanced aquatics class, as well as the teachers can apply for their own grants from BOCES. And so there's some grants that aren't listed on here from BOCES that our teachers have applied for and were awarded throughout the year as well. 2 new grants this year is Early Head Start and TANF. Early Head Start, we're getting a little over $512,000. Early Head Start has allowed us to enroll an additional 32 children in our 0 to 3 daycare, which is really exciting. And our TANF program was a $100,000 grant to help expand our preschool services. And this, like I said, brand new this year, and I've been working with Miss Ellison. She was one of the first people that I met on my second day of work on July 2nd. She came in and she said, "Hey, we got to apply for this TANF grant." And luckily it was great working with her to begin. And we got that, so. And then some other competitive grants. Our Cutting Edge grant this year we were awarded an extra $24,000 to purchase drones for the aviation program. Teachers can apply, our CTE teachers can apply for this grant every year. Our CTE PD was a little extra money for our CTE teachers in order to go to some professional development that our Perkins program does not pay for. McKinney-Vento, that helps our homeless and in transition kids. And then we have some mental health grants. SAMHSA and TIS is about $514,000. And we have a new K-12 mental health grant that we were awarded this year that's $291,000. SIG, which is school improvement monies that come from the federal government. It's a catch-22. We raised in the 3 schools that qualified for our funding, we raised test scores enough to not qualify anymore. But that's also, we lose about $200,000. So yes, we want our schools to improve and it's fantastic and everything like that. But unfortunately, the federal guidelines for school improvement money are different than state. So we may still be in school improvement according to the state, but not for the federal government. And that's where the extra money comes from. So good and bad, lose a little bit of money, but our scores are going up. And like I said before, we also oversee various grants that the teachers write for and receive throughout the year. And I offer support to teachers in writing them, or we help work with or purchase the supplies or whatever it is that their grant award is for. And finally, I do have a link to a Padlet. If there's any questions, input that anybody would like to give. If nobody has worked with Padlet, I don't know, Zach, can you pull up Padlet? So you'll see a couple of different categories. You can hit the addition button below, and it will come up with an area where you can type in. It's basically like a virtual sticky note. You can add in a suggestion, and you can actually trade in, you can make it whatever color you want. And then others who also give suggestions will be able to see what everybody else is writing. You can like somebody else's comment. You also have the option of staying anonymous or adding your name. And I liked this idea for transparency and maybe not duplicating so many suggestions if other people can just like somebody else's or something like that. But like I said, I will also be having a community meeting pertaining to this topic on April 9th, and I stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Is that Padlet something that we have linked or can link or something, make a little more available to the community?
Yes, so the QR code is live as well as the link that's in the back of the presentation, and I believe that is all linked to the agenda.
Okay, awesome. Okay. I was also just going to ask Ms. Libby, the last two competitive grants, you covered the K-12 mental health
Mhm.
and the SAMHSA and TIS. Can you, like your other slides were extremely informative. I appreciate that. Can you tell us what those ones are more specifically used for?
Sure. So the SAMHSA and the TIS are surrounding mental health, student mental health, as well as the K-12 mental health grant. So they pay for, we have some counselors that are being paid out of those salaries. Annie Fletcher, who is our at-risk coordinator, she is overseeing those grants. She has been purchasing, she's been working with the counselors to purchase supplies and resources for kids, creating calming rooms, having different opportunities for them if they need to de-escalate, opportunities for them to help deal with their mental health on campus.
Yeah, I remember she did a presentation a little while back and
Mhm.
showed some of those. So that's where that's coming
Yes.
from. Thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions? Dr. Seppi?
I'm just looking big picture wise. I'm curious, how did we do this year as compared to we've done in the past? Are we about the same amount of granting that we're getting? Are we getting more? Are we getting less? And also there's two parts, so you don't have to go back. Is there anywhere that we're specifically lacking? Like you had said that we're going to lose one that's going to really hurt. Is there anywhere else that we're concerned with?
Obviously, in the last 4 or 5 years, we've had all of the COVID funds. Those expired in September. So losing whatever amount that was, I came to the district in July. So I can't speak to what was, in process or what we were awarded more than, a year or two ago. I know that the loss of the COVID funds is going to be huge. And I know Title I, it's interesting because they give us a preliminary allocation in May. So the federal fiscal year goes from October 1st to September 30th. So we get our preliminary allocations in May, and then we write our grant application for what we feel we're going to need to use it for. And then July, August, September, then we'll get our final allocation. So like this year, we got our Title I allocation, which had been increased, and then we wrote our application for it. And Rita Isaacson, who is one of our phenomenal federal grants bookkeepers, for some reason, she had a thought that that our actual allocation was going to be lower. So she started kind of pulling some money aside, and sure enough, our final allocation was $100,000 less than what the preliminary was. So I think year to year, from last year to this year, we're solid, because we also had all of the ESSER money or the COVID money to back up any of the losses that might have had. Does that answer? And as far as what we're worried about, I mean, yes, the loss of the Y-Built grant is going to be huge. I have been working with the business department and human resources. In a lot of our federal programs and our grants, we actually can carry money over and spend and have 2 years to spend it down. So I've actually been working on carrying over a little bit more than maybe I would if we still had the Y-Built money coming in, just so that I can make sure that we can maybe move some positions into other buckets of money in order to make sure that we are solvent and can keep those positions alive for the next year.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 5. Again, thank you guys for attending today's board meeting and for your ongoing engagement with the district. As we move into the public comment portion, we kindly ask that each speaker limit their comments to one opportunity. If you've already submitted written comments, we kindly request that you refrain from addressing the board again on the same topic. All written comments will be posted in the written public comment section of the agenda for review by all attendees, including trustees. If you have a concern regarding a district employee, please know that in order to protect privacy and ensure due process, such matters will be addressed in a closed session. We encourage you to utilize the district's official complaint process, which can be found on the district website, along with the necessary forms. If you are unable to finish your comments within the allotted 3 minutes, we invite you to submit the remainder in writing to the superintendent or board chair. These submissions will be shared with all board members after the meeting and will receive a response in the same manner as public comments. We did not receive any written public comments, so we'll open it for in-person public comments.
I'm Laura McKee. Good evening, Dr. Libby and members of the community and board. I stand before you today in light of the recent legislative changes that directly relate to our school district. The Wyoming House Bill 147, the prohibition of institutional discrimination, has passed, signed by Governor Gordon and assigned to Chapter 110. This law mandates that no public institution in Wyoming can include programs or policies that promote discrimination based on race, gender, or other protected classes. This includes the exclusion of diversity, equity, and inclusion from our educational framework. I appreciate the continued dedication this board has shown towards a comprehensive education to our students. With the passage of HB 147, it is time to take immediate and careful action to ensure that our curriculum and professional development program aligns with both the law and the expectations of the state and at the federal level. The passage of HB 147 means we can no longer support or endorse DEI policies or curriculums that prioritize certain groups over others, or that treat race, gender, identity as central to educational content. This law clearly prohibits institutional practices that may foster division or discriminatory outcomes based on these characteristics. We need to audit our current curriculum and educational programs to ensure compliance with state law. This will also align with the federal requirements that have come about. To ensure our district remains legally compliant, we need to review curriculum materials for content promoting DEI initiatives or social justice ideologies that may be in conflict with HB 147, audit professional development programs to confirm they align with the new standards and are free from DEI training that could be interpreted as discriminatory. Our primary responsibility is to provide education, integrity, and neutrality for all students with the tools they need to think critically, engage with diverse perspectives, and become informed, well-rounded citizens in doing so. It is crucial that our curriculum is neutral and objective, ensuring that our students are not taught from a single ideology standpoint and that history is taught as history, not as a biased lens. On HB 47 presents an opportunity to reevaluate any curriculum or training that could be seen as pushing a particular social or political agenda and to refocus on academic rigor. The goal is to foster an environment of intellectual freedom where ideas are debated and discussed respectfully without favoring any particular ideology. To ensure our district complies with HB 147, I have a few recommendations to form a curriculum review committee, a group composed of board members, teachers, parents, community leaders who can work together to assess the current state of our curriculum, identifying areas that may need revision and propose solutions, and to audit external curriculum providers. Houston, Mifflin, Harcourt, Pearson's, and other publishing companies have been removed from other states for DEI content with their curriculum. We must ensure these vendors are not promoting DEI principles that contradict the state law within their text.
Ms. McKee,
Yes.
we appreciate you very much. Would you mind submitting the rest of that to us?
Yes,
Thank you very
absolutely.
much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Natalie Powell, and I'm the co-chair of the Rock Springs High School Parent Involvement Team. I'm here to give our monthly PIT update. We believe that by giving monthly updates, it will help to bring transparency and continuance of issues as we give voice to Rock Springs High School students, teachers, staff, and parents. During our March meeting, we saw the raw data on the accelerated schedule survey that was sent out last month. We appreciate the time high school administrators took to go through the data at the meeting. We look forward to seeing a breakdown of data by respondent, as well as summaries of written comments shared out to all stakeholders. It would be helpful on future surveys to have a question to indicate if you're a student, parent, teacher, or community member, so that data could be disaggregated to allow for more meaningful insights. A few areas of concern from the survey are power hour, Edmentum's effectiveness, and student schedule balance between core classes and electives. We remain curious how students will perform on key performance indicators since moving to the accelerated schedule, such as the ACT and the summative YTOP. Pitt is helping to organize snack donations for juniors taking the ACT later this month. We believe that students who are fed can better focus and have improved academic performance. These are grab-and-go type snacks such as fruit cups, granola bars, string cheese, and popcorn. We encourage any parents, community members, or businesses interested in donating snack items to drop them off at the satellite school anytime before March 24th. We appreciate those parents who have already donated, as well as a shout out to Grubs for their donation. Pitt has had parents reach out with concerns about changes to dual and concurrent classes. We appreciate the time Mr. Straka took to answer questions we have had come our way. We will continue to work with the high school administration to ensure that all students have academic freedom. While some students may not do well or be ready for college classes, there are a lot of students whose experiences with Western classes have been very positive. We want to thank Officer Hager for inviting us to attend the Avoid, Deny, Defend training. It was well thought out and executed. He did a great job and we learned a lot. There are just 2 remaining Pitt meetings this school year. We welcome anyone interested, including students, teachers, parents, community members, board members, and central administration to attend our next Pitt meeting on April 7th at 6 p.m. at the satellite campus. A reminder that Pitt meetings provide a time for valuable face-to-face dialogue with high school administrators and allows for time and space to ask questions and gain further clarification on issues. Each meeting has an agenda. We take notes at each meeting and share those notes on our Facebook page as well as these board reports, as we believe transparency is essential to the process. Pitt's goal is to strengthen the relationships between parents, community members, and the school, supporting the success of all students. We hope community members stay informed, speak up about concerns, and be solution-oriented. We can always be reached via email at rshspit307@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. Other public comment?
Good evening. My name is David Stoffer. I'm a community member and a parent. I think I've said this in here before, but we really need like some music or something to liven this up. That's not my comment. I know I'm timed here. In all transparency, I had no intention of speaking today. The only reason I'm here is because my daughter was part of the dance team that was recognized today. And I wanted to say thank you for doing that. I think it's tremendous that we recognize those students and those coaches, teachers that excel. Having said that, and again, I have no idea what the district's policy is. This is probably more towards our superintendent as far as our coaches that excel. If we don't have a way to compensate our coaches that are doing excellent work, we really should think of it about as a district a way to do that. Our dance team, this is my last and third daughter to go through 4 years of being on the dance team. Between the prior coach and our current coach in that time period, that team has won 8 state championships. And I don't, without offending, but anywhere else in the world, if you excel, there's compensation for that. And so I don't know what the district's policy is, but I would highly recommend that the district think about those coaches that really excel, that take their team to the next level, that we should think of other ways other than saying a thank you, which is amazing and I think very much appreciated. But we also we want to retain and keep those people that are excellent. That's what we're striving for in Rock Springs is excellency. And when we have programs that excel, we really should, I think, go out of our way to make sure that those coaches, those individuals that are excelling are compensated appropriately for what they do. This was my last chance to do this. I have no more daughters left that are going to be on the dance team. All of the coaches that they've had have been truly, truly amazing and have affected the lives of my daughters probably forever, for the rest of their life. And I don't know that sometimes that we truly appreciate what they do when it is a sport or an activity that's outside of maybe those main ones that we're more focused on sometimes. So that was all I wanted to say today. Thank you for your time.
Point well taken, Mr. Stoffer. Thank you. Other comments? Any other public comment? Third time's a charm. Okay. With that, we'll move on to item 6, which is our consent agenda. And I will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented and or amended. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Gardner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Franks. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. I'll now move on to item 7. This is the approval of the Mercer. Sorry about that. Is there a motion to approve the FEA's recommendation of the expansion of the satellite high school as the Mercer for addressing the adequacy needs at the current Rock Springs High School? Sorry, is motion to approve this?
So moved.
It's been moved by Ms. Schumacher. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Franks. Yes. Any discussion on this one? No discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Excellent. Motion passes. Okay. Item 8 is the approval of the alternative schedule. I'm assuming everybody's had the chance, but if not, the survey results that were requested last month have been posted there. So I'll ask for a motion to approve the alternative schedule for all in-town schools, Desert School, Farson Eden School for the 2026-2027 school year. Is there a motion to approve? Okay. I guess maybe we can move forward to discussion on this if there's any comments or questions. I will provide you guys with my feedback. You guys are freaking me out here. I'll give you guys my feedback on this, a couple comments. So you have the survey results. I found a few things interesting. One, if you take a look at student surveys and teacher surveys, just based on the percentage between 5-day and 3-day, the students and staff supported the 5-day Thanksgiving break over the 3-day. There were a decent percentage in both populations that did not have a preference between the two. So the survey results that were presented kind of added those to both of those numbers to give a final breakdown. If you look at the parent survey, it's almost 50-50. It's 0.1% in favor of the 5-day versus the 3-day. And then if you look at the community responses, this one actually supports the 3-day Thanksgiving break. The one thing that I would like to point out, we had 570 responses from staff, 930 from students, 668 from parents, and 20 from the community. So while that does favor the 3-day, I think we need to look at that proportionally to the rest of the responses. The other thing I wanted to address, and let me pull this comment up real quick, but one of the questions around or concerns around the taking the additional time to look through this was our at-risk population. And so I had a little snippet here from Annie Fletcher, who's our at-risk coordinator. I believe Mr. Sorensen, she had a conversation with you. And this is just kind of a summary for everybody's knowledge. And Ms. Fletcher said we did talk about food as it's one of the things we cannot cover through grant funds and is always a need. We talked about the importance of connecting our families with the community resources that are out there, school-sponsored pantries, the backpack program, the soup kitchen, the food bank, the monthly state food bank distribution, churches, boys and girls clubs, and community groups. I did mention that with weekends, both 2-day and 3-day, and all school breaks, including vacations and summer break, our families rely on these resources for support, and it's important that we are informing them about the options. I believe the need is present regardless of the school schedule, 4-day or 5-day, long breaks or no breaks. and that our community as a whole, not just the schools, need to be part of the solution. The schools often play a key role because we have an existing relationship with the family and see the need first. The other thing, just for clarity for our community, it's always difficult to differentiate that this alternative schedule is looking at start and end times and breaks, not the 4-day or 5-day school week. So we had the conversation last month that will be discussed and addressed as we move forward. But just to be very clear, this is just looking at start dates, end dates, and the breaks. And then just a summary, if anybody has questions, Ms. Bolton can stand up and help as well. But I believe that the calendar that was previously presented, or the options between the calendars, there was some misunderstandings and conflicts. And so this is ultimately the calendar that we just, it seems like the hang up or point of discussion is the length of the Thanksgiving break. So there are the survey results. There are the communications from our at-risk coordinator. With that, do you guys have other points of discussion? Mr. Sorensen.
Well, I think it's great that we proved that kids don't want to be in school. I think it's very important to look at the staff and the parents voting. I don't think the kids really matter in this one because these are the most affected. It's interesting to see how the staff voted. So it kind of falls along lines, I think, our board discussion. It's kind of a 50-50 proposition with a lean towards having a full week off for Thanksgiving. So.
Thank you, Mr. Garner.
I just wanted to say I appreciate Ms. Bolton taking the time to help facilitate this fact-finding effort. After getting this information, this is precisely what I was asking for. So seeing that breakdown certainly makes it easier for me to vote to approve this schedule as provided. Still with some reservations for the future, but looking at the data we have right now, I appreciate, for the members of the public, I sure do appreciate everyone that took the time to fill out the survey. We can't represent you without information, so very much appreciated.
Dr. Seppi.
I'd like to make a comment because I've received several questions about why we have questioned this more, seeing that it's really just revolving around Thanksgiving. We have other breaks that are longer. And I completely understand people's questioning as to why we're doing this. And I think this is more of a question as a whole, is that as a board, we're questioning on, are we providing our at-risk students enough support? And unfortunately, fortunately, they are a smaller population. However, they also tend to be the underrepresented population as well. And as a board member, I take that very seriously, that we are their voice. A lot of times they otherwise don't have one. I was questioned about, well, Christmas break is a longer break, and I completely understand. And my concern about those students goes beyond the Thanksgiving break. The reason that the Thanksgiving break was really pulled out is because it's the one that has been most recently changed. Historically, Christmas break has been about the same amount of time. And it's not that we don't care about those other ones. This was our most recent change that we theoretically could change. I think our board's biggest concern is not that we don't want people to have 5 days, or we do want them to have 5 days, whatever. It's more about the trying to look after the population that probably needs the most support. We really can't change Christmas break. It has historically been there. It's been more of about a discussion of what other things are we able to provide those students, and are we doing enough there? And if we're not, can we bring it down to, so like the Thanksgiving break, if they leave at Thanksgiving and we were to do the backpack programs or things like that, we give them food when they leave at that point. They are gone for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Normally, we would get them back on Monday. If we went down to 3 days, after a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we would be able to replenish those students that would have none, or at least less. If we go to a 5-day, we are now 10 days between when we can provide some of those resources to those students. That is really where this comes down to. I've seen the backpack programs. I think they are great. Unfortunately, right now, we do not have a really condensed, all schools are the same. Some schools do an amazing job, and they really do a good job. Other schools aren't doing as much. And I'm not trying to put down schools, and I'm not naming schools. It's just how it works. There are some schools that are really well planned for this. My concern still revolves the same. If we have a chance to help these students, I want to help them. I just do. And at a time when there's a lot of joy for a lot, Chairman Wright made this discussion this year, there are some that have none. And I want to make sure we help those.
I don't know what it is that does that. I'm gonna learn. Are there any other comments about any questions for Ms. Bolton? Okay, so still learning my job here, but maybe I'll go back and ask again if there's an approval to, a motion to approve the alternative schedules as presented.
I will move to approve the alternative schedules as presented.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Gardner. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Schumacher. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And any opposed?
Excuse me, sir.
You're okay, good. Okay, with that, the motion passes. Okay, we'll move on to item 9, which is our vacancy notice. And which is just for information's sake, and item 9B, our 2025 Head Start Governing Board and Policy Monthly Report. Okay, also just for information purposes. With that, that concludes our general agenda. Item 10A, I'll ask for a motion to go into executive session. It's been moved by Ms. Wood. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gardner, and I will comment, there's no action upon our return, and I do anticipate this executive session lasting a little bit longer, just to be transparent. With that, we will motion approved and we'll go into executive session.